Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Ramblings from Two Meddling Kids. I'm Edward Hunt, joined by my fellow assassin secret agent person,
Mike Cunningham.
and we are the Meddling Kids, and we like to review movies. For those of you joining us for the first time, welcome. It's good to have you here. For those of you who've come back, hey, good to have you back. This week, we'll be reviewing Mr. and Mrs. Smith. What? Why an old movie, you ask? Well, there's reasons for this. One, there's the show Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Apparently they have nothing to do with each other, but they have the same name, darn it, and that's close enough. And two, this was our second place runner-up for Valentine's Day movies, so we didn't really see anything coming out this week that we wanted to see, so hey, we'll do Mr. and Mrs. Smith. But if you have not yet seen this movie from 2005, don't worry. We're not going to spoil anything yet. We'll give you a 0 to 5 spoiler-free review, then give you some background, then get into our play-by-play where we have a few spoilers. But, Mike, are you ready?
I am.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith, 0 to 5. What'd you give it?
I gave it a 4.
Okay.
I feel like I might drop down to a 3.5. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we'll get into it. But I enjoyed the chemistry between the leads in this one. I think that's the one of the biggest draws of this film.
Yeah.
I think it was interesting with the spy, kind of the spy thriller and adapting it a little bit differently. But I think ultimately what really draws people in was the chemistry between Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt.
It ended marriages, literally.
That's not not a gossip. We don't we don't lean into gossip. We don't know that for sure. Okay, timelines are really blurry. But yeah, no, like you said, they did start, dating and seeing each other literally right after this movie release.
Yeah.
So there was a certain genuineness and authenticity to their romance that was just on screen. I kind of loved how I didn't even think this was necessarily a comedy. I think it was more like action thriller. But then just the way some of their performances, it was just very comedic in like what they did. And I really appreciated that. It was like a subtle comedy, not like trying to make you laugh, just there. Mm-hmm. I think even their moments of like fighting, as a married couple does, that was even very genuine, and it played into the comedy, it played into the action, it played into the tension. I think the writing, at times it was a little, but it's 2005. I think that's also, we talked about this before. It's like sometimes like you do need to put yourself back into a time watching older films. Right, like not to be judgmental, but like, it's just like that writing that like it's 2005, so there was a certain type of writing that Hollywood was doing in like some of these films. So it was just like now it seems very cliched and things like that, but it was just like back then it was like, oh no, that was par for the course type of thing. Mm-hmm. But I think that some of the writing was a little bit like it's Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's like Hasta la Vista. It was like constantly looking for like a quip. Or like some one line, and it was just like, that is not how human beings talk. But I think that was like some of the writing was something that I think I had I guess a gripe with, but it wasn't like terrible. I still think it was like very smartly written. I think it was more like the dialogue, not necessarily how they structured the story, that I had an issue with. But like all in all, I really enjoyed the performances. The action scenes were cool. They weren't like over the top or anything like that. But yeah, the performances were cool. I think the story was really cool and interesting. It really like the pacing was like, it's a 2-hour movie, but it doesn't seem like that. Maybe because of like I think they paced it well. It was like it started out slow, a little bit of action, slow, a little bit of action, and then the last third is just all action. And I think it was like paced fairly well, where like it wasn't really drawn out. I will say the ending seemed very abrupt.
Yes, very abrupt. Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it was we ran out of time or we're trying to lead you to a sequel type of thing. But I will say, like, seeing this ending, I was like, I didn't remember it ending like that. It seems like no real resolution.
I would say there's really not either.
Yeah, so many questions. Like, how do we get here? Like, it's crazy to open a movie. Like, how did they get there to end in it? Like, how did we get here?
Yeah.
But yeah, all in all, that's what I'm saying. So maybe I'll bump it down to a 3.5. Just because of the some of the issues that I spoke on. But for the most part, really enjoyed this one. Had a lot of fun. And yeah, so 3.5 for me.
Nice. All right, so 3.5 for Mike. I'm going to start it at a 3. I think still the movie's fun. I think there's a lot of positives of it. So let's just start with, first and foremost, you have potentially peak Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie in this. Like, both of them are like, you hold a match too close to them and it catches on fire. All right, they're hot. All right, there's just no doubt about it. And there is so much on-screen chemistry between the two of them. It's
But
just
what I will say, not to cut you off, but
sure.
some of the press run for the Eternals, which Angelina Jolie was in,
Yeah.
they had one where like all the male leads were like they had a staring contest between Angelina Jolie and like Brian Tyree Henry, Kamal Nanjiani, and one of the other guys, and they could not stare her in the eyes too long because she was just looking at her was
Yeah.
overwhelming.
Yeah.
You know, it's so funny. I can't remember which one, but one guy sat down and immediately got up. He was like, "Nope, can't do it." Like,
Yeah.
and I was just looking at her. So, like, you were just saying, it was like, yeah, the chemistry between them. But sorry,
Yeah.
go on.
No. You know what's crazy is just on a fun fact background with it too. Brad Pitt was 42 and Angelina Jolie was 28. I think no. Angelina Jolie was 28 when they were filming it. Brad Pitt was 42 at the premiere, so he was probably like 40, 41 when they were filming.
That seems incorrect, sir.
No, look, I mean, look, Google, you know. Google has never lied to me before.
That seems way wrong for some reason.
Yeah, but back to the review. No, so, I mean, they're red hot. Their chemistry is great. It is a very fun, interesting premise. And obviously, I watched this movie a few times growing up, for sure. Fun fact, this movie's probably a 5 for Felicia. She loves this movie. She was like breaking down scenes and everything for me too when we watched it the other night. But if you had told me before I rewatched this movie that I was going to have to sit through like an hour and some of this movie before the big gun scene where they're fighting in the house, I would have called you a dirty liar. You know, I had no idea there was like an hour and 15 of this movie before that gun scene because it's iconic. But for me, some of like the beginning hour 15 dragged a little bit. I was like, okay, but maybe that was also because I knew the gun scene was coming. I was like, let's get to the fight scene, the big one. But I guess it's a slight spoiler, man. Sorry, y'all. It's an old movie. But from there, and then I agree completely with what Mike said with the ending feeling very, very abrupt. And I don't really feel like there was actually closure almost on it. Like there was some closure, sure, for like Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie's characters. But if you look at the movie and what's going on, you're like, what? So 3 to 5 for me. It's not a bad movie by any means. 3 to 5 means it's very entertaining, and I would say most people should probably watch it at one point in time. But as movies go, I would say there's a fair amount of flaws in this movie. But yeah. So let's get some background on this. Mike, did you fact check me? Was Brad Pitt actually like 40, 41 when he filmed this?
Well, he's 12 years older than her. She was 30, so he was 42.
Well, yeah, that was at the premiere. The premiere was that age. So, like, filming it, they were like 28, 29. This is according to hiddenremote.com/post/Mr. and Mrs. Smith came out something.
Yeah, that sounds super legit.
Yeah, for sure.
Your taxes as well. I was just doing math, jackass. They're 12 years apart. That's it. That's all you need to know. Yep. So she was 28, 29. He was 40, 41. Jesus. Yeah. Do you not math? Don't you do real estate?
Look, I did the math. I'm good.
Anyway, background information. Sorry. So yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Smith came out June 10th, 2005. The runtime is 2 hours. The budget was $110 million. Fun fact, that's because fucking they paid each of them $20 million.
Got you. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Because I'm sitting there like, this is 2005. I said $100 million. Jesus fucking Christ! But if you pay your 2 lead actors a third of the salary, or I'm sorry, a quarter of it, you're right.
That's nuts. Yeah.
Yeah. The box office was $487 million, so it was a hit.
It paid off. Yeah, it made sense.
Surprisingly, though, the Rotten Tomatoes is 60 for the critics and 58 for the audience.
Wait, 58 for audience? Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Huh.
But I think it leans into the fact, like I said, there's a lot of some of the action scenes, like I think the big action scene, honestly, is the one with them after at the house.
Yes,
I think that might be the better one.
Yes,
but I think everything else might have been a little lax for the most part. Even like the big chase scenes at the end, honestly. Yeah. But I think, like I said, I enjoy them. But it's like kind of, and that's why even like I came in reducing my score before I even said it. Like I think that does speak to like the audience. Was like, yeah, we like these people, but no art is above critique, which I can appreciate,
For
right?
sure.
Because I think
Absolutely.
so often I just watch fucking Madam Web, and I was like, I was telling a friend about it. She was like, "What? I love Dakota Johnson." I was like, "What do you love her in?" And she was like, "Well," and I was like, "Is that because you like 50 Shades?"
Yeah.
So you just let the actor slide? That's not how it works.
Yeah.
I love Eddie Murphy, but I can admit that Norbert was trash.
Yeah.
Still love the film.
Side note, did you realize that he was also Mr. Wong in Norbit?
Yeah,
I had no idea he was. I knew he,
yeah.
obviously he was.
That was the racist part.
Yeah, I just learned this the other day.
You got to know your history. You know that man loved to dress up as somebody else.
Well, I knew Norbit, and then I can't remember the
Vespuccia, yeah.
Vespuccia. That's what it is. Yeah.
You got to know you. So as like I said, as somebody that loves Eddie Murphy, I know his characters. I can just tell.
Fair.
He does voices, but like he is a certain range. Like,
Yeah.
all right. So back to So Rotten Tomatoes 60 for critics, 58 for audience, which is like I said, not as surprising, but luckily it still made its money.
Yeah.
The genre is action, comedy, thriller, and like I said, I don't think the comedy was meant. I think it was just like they play so well together that the comedy just came out. It was directed by Doug Liman, who had done Swingers, The Bourne Identity. He was an executive producer on The Bourne Identity. He did Jumper, The Edge of Tomorrow, and Roadhouse, and then a few episodes of Suits and Pearson on the USA Network. And then also a little bit of trivia. The script was written as his senior thesis. So that's what I'm saying. I'm talking about the connection between the television series that came out prior to Mr. and Mrs. Smith and this. I think they just link a name and not really so much as like a plot.
Okay.
The cast starring Brad Pitt as John, Angelina Jolie as Jane, Vince Vaughn as Eddie, Adam Brody as Ben / the Tank.
Yep, for sure.
Which messed me up because I did the cast list and then watched the movie and then like broke it down. I was like, why is his name not coming up? What's going on?
Yeah, like, what is going on right now? Yeah.
Kerry Washington as Jasmine, Keith David as the father, Chris Wentz as Martin, and Michelle Monaghan as Gwen. And then there's no actual tagline for this movie, which is surprising.
Mr. and Miss. There you go.
It's funny. I did the God damn it has nothing to do with this one, but I was doing the research for Blair Witch for when we do it, and like it has one of the longest fucking taglines in the. Let me read it for you. It says, "In October of 1994, 3 student filmmakers disappeared in the woods of Burkesville, Maryland, while shooting a documentary. A year later, their footage was found." Who wrote that full paragraph?
Yeah, right. Like, I mean, that's just the synopsis, or just the whole movie. That's not a tagline.
It was so funny. It was like that's what was on IMDb. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Well, there you go.
Because we've talked, I've mentioned before, like I've seen very long taglines that should not like this. It was my first time I actually see it. I would have to like write it down.
Yeah.
Funny to me. Jesus Christ! Like it was like. What tagline do you have to flip a page for? Like,
just keep it going. 407 years ago, and then just keep it going. But cool. Is that all of our background, Mike?
Sorry, that's background.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. But yeah, so before we hop on to our next segment, where we will start spoiling this movie, a quick word from our sponsors. What up, this guy? My name is Edward Hunt. I'm a real estate agent with Compass, and yeah, really. It's my job to advise people on the market, but so much more than that. I'm in the DMV, that's DC, Maryland, and Virginia. So if you want any handyman or contractors, you need anything else home related, I can connect you with some phenomenal people that can do whatever you need. Also, a great thing with Compass is we're a nationwide brokerage. So no matter where you are in the United States, I can find you a real estate agent that can help you as well. Also, Edward Hunt of Hunt Comics. We have Evil as a Weapon issue 1 up on Global Comics and Amazon right now. I would love for you to check it out. My artist is hard at work on issue 2. We should be done with it soonish. So we should have a Kickstarter campaign up and running soon too. But let's get started. Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Who are these mysterious Smith people? What's going on?
They will forever be a mystery. That's the point. Their names are John and Jane Smith. Like, what are you talking?
There you go. They're meant to be.
The movie starts out with the Smiths attending marriage counseling. which is kind of how Ken Burr came up with the writer. That's how he came up with the concept
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. Just like he was talking to his friends about, and they were mentioning going to marriage counseling. He was like, okay, let's see what we could do with that. It's
Yeah.
always interesting to me, like to see the mind of a creative. Like
Mm-hmm.
they get like something and just kind of run with an idea. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah. So we see the Smiths in marriage counseling. Um, and it was like you could see they're kind of. I mean, they both seem very. God damn it! What's the word? Distant, I guess, is
Yes,
the
for sure.
like. There is a certain even with how there's I guess how they're sitting separately or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Like there's just a distance, and I think we talked about this last time. It was like trying to break down the different elements of film analytics, and it was like the mise en scene or how things are situated on the screen
Yeah.
and how that tells you. So we talked about it with crazy stupid love, but it was just like how things are situated on the screen tells you so much without even having to say anything. So
Mm-hmm.
like they're in marriage counseling, but it's not a couch. Normally, you do see like a couch or something. So like,
Yeah.
but it was like they're very much sitting in two different, two love seats or whatever it is, separated.
Yeah.
So it also automatically gives off there's a certain split between them.
And something else with I was talking about it with Felicia last night when we watched this. Angelina Jolie's character, Jane Smith, in the beginning when like stuff is not good, she has like on like high turtlenecks, a lot
Mhm.
of covering, very like kind of restrictive clothing in a way where it's like it's kind of distancing herself from everything else. Even how her hair is like up and tight. Like there's a lot of it like that's just screaming like, don't talk to me. I'm distant from you right now based on what she's wearing in that scene for sure. So yes, we brought that up.
Yeah. So like they can't even like so they there's a certain like distance between them and also like they can't even they can't even like penciled in like how long they've been together, how long they've
Mhm.
been married. Like
Yeah.
he says 5 years, she says no 6 or like either way, I can't remember who says what.
Yeah.
But it was
But he
like
says five, 6 years.
even in the flashback, it goes 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Neither one of them. Well, I think Jane knows.
Yeah.
If I were to be a betting man.
Strikes me as the right one. Yeah.
But yeah, so as they're talking about like kind of their issue, because it does like they and their answers are very like reserved. It was just like, yeah, we're fine. Like there's nothing wrong. You can clearly see there's something, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then it flashbacks to 5 or 6 years before, and we see John at like a bar in this like in a hotel. They're in Colombia
Yeah.
or whatever.
Bogota, Colombia. Yeah.
Yeah, and they mentioned something about like some guards coming in and saying, "I was like, we need to search for anybody traveling alone."
Hmm.
And so like John is there by himself, and then like Jane comes in. She's by herself as well. So they try to like the guards try to stop her. Oh, sorry, the soldiers, not guards, but the
Hmm.
soldiers try to stop her, and she's just like she kind of walks over to John. He's like, oh yeah, we're here together. And
Yeah.
so like they kind of go off to the side, and then they introduce themselves to one another. Because clearly they're yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, but there's very clearly too something's up with them because, like, he has a gun on his hip.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
he has a gun in his back waistband pocket. So you're like, whoa, what is
Yeah, so
going
like
on?
yeah, so like Jane when she walked in and they kind of tried to question her, she lifted her like dress and it was like there was a knife on
Hmm.
her side. And
Yeah.
then when they called John over, he's like he had his hand on his back and clearly there was a gun back there.
Hmm.
But because they were able to pretend like they were traveling as a couple, they didn't need to resort to any
Yeah.
violence. So they
Thank
kind
God.
of go off to the side.
Violence is not the answer, kids. Thank God they didn't have to do this. What's what I like about this movie is the lack of violence in it for sure. It's just wholesome, like marriage counseling. The movie, right?
And so they go up to another side room, and it was just like they introduced themselves to one another, and then like they kind of go off to like some restaurant in the village, and like kind of to further get to know one another. And it was like
Mhm.
clearly there's like a some chemistry between them, and then like they end up spending the night together. They start dancing, and then they end up spending the night together.
Yeah.
Um, and I think they come home
Hmm.
and like I think within like 5 weeks, like so they're dating,
Yeah.
and like so this is an interesting scene. Like they're at like some carnival or something like that. Like there's a shooting game, and
Hmm.
like Jane wants him to get her a prize, and so like oh no, she shoots for herself, and like she misses a few or something like that.
Hmm.
And then I guess he says something, and so she tries again and just knocks everything down.
Yeah. Because she goes, she misses on purpose. He
Mhm.
goes, he gets everything but one target. And he's like,
Yeah.
dang. And then she goes and just blows them all away, basically. So it's like, okay, there's something going on with these people.
Mhm.
You don't fully know what, because they even mention, they've only been dating for a little bit, but they mentioned like he's a contractor for like a builder, so he's like
Mhm.
a developer, and then she works for like a tech company.
Yeah, she's
So
a
like,
tech support consultant. So yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So like that's what their stories are. But I don't know about you, Mike, but you work in the tech world. Do a lot of you tech people hang out in Bogota, Colombia with knives strapped to your waist or around your thighs? Is that
I
just a
mean,
common thing?
it's Colombia. No disrespect to them. What the fuck?
I'm just saying, I've met a few developers that do carry guns, but yeah, but I don't know about the tech people. That might be the difference here.
But yeah, so it's basically like a whirlwind romance. I think whirlwind romance. I said that very
Mhm.
fast. I apologize. I think they're dating for like 5 weeks, and then he just proposes,
Mhm.
and like you do see like both of their set of friends separately are like, "What are you doing? Like this is crazy. You barely know this person,"
Yeah.
and but they're just swept up in this like this person gets me type of
Mhm.
thing, and so like they get married. Very like literally. Once again, I feel like within like 2 or 3 months, to like 1 or 2 months of dating,
Mhm.
um, and then we jump to the present day,
Yeah.
where I guess they're very much settled into the suburban life,
Mhm. And
and
so
so then sorry,
Mhm.
um, then we see them. I think they're just getting prepared in the house or something like that, and then. Uh, there's something funny that happens. It was like this is once again I love the chemistry of this couple and how they portray a married couple. So like they're sitting at the dinner table or whatever, and she mentions, "Oh, did you notice the curtains or whatever?"
Mhm.
And he goes, yeah, yeah, whatever. But as like usually like that's not something the husband really would really care about.
Sure.
And then she goes, "Well, if you don't like them, just say something." He was like, "I don't really like them." Then she goes, "You'll get used to it."
Yeah.
I was like, okay, all right.
There's tension in this marriage for sure.
Yeah,
All of this we see, like there's just little snide comments back and forth. There's a lot
yeah.
where it's like, interesting. Okay. Yeah.
But I don't know why that one stood out to me. It was just like, then why'd you ask?
Yeah.
We can fight. This table's long as hell. Like,
That's marriage, man. Or then there's like the other when like they're sitting at the dinner table and he asks her to pass the salt and the salt's
oh yeah,
in
and it's in the
between them.
middle of the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like, it's in between us, so like she can't pass it because he could just get it
Mhm.
himself. Yeah.
It's a very passive aggressive, and you even see them. While like this is like kind of a montage of their current, their current lives as a married couple,
Hmm.
but they each go to the marriage counselor separately,
Yeah.
and then this is where you see them actually like him being frustrated with her but not being able to say it, and
Mhm.
like she is also frustrated by some of his shortcomings and insensitivities and things like that, and not being very attentive in their marriage. So it's like once again they were already, you could tell they kind of were keeping things close to the vest
Hmm.
during their dual marriage counseling session, but they're more open separately. But even then, it's still like they can't really express how they truly feel.
Yeah.
Um, but it was just it was just funny. It was like I can't, it's fine.
Yeah.
He went to go articulate how he was feeling, and then even like kind of redacted it in the same moment as if somebody was like shushing him.
Yeah.
Um, and then like so really briefly, like I was even confused why they showed this shot, but it was just like we meet Ben,
Hmm.
and he's walking through an office. He's been called to the boss's office for an assignment. And then literally that was just it. He just gets to the assignment. He opens the envelope, and then he just leaves.
Yeah.
And it was like very like, what the fuck is this? Who is this
Hmm.
person?
Why is he popping up out of nowhere? What is he?
Yeah, but we'll see later. And like you said, in a goddamn hour.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I think one night. I'm so sorry.
Hmm.
One night. What's her name? Like I think it's after like or like before their dinner or something like that. They have a planned like I guess a party in the neighborhood or something like that. But before that, each one of them kind of leaves the house
Hmm.
and for some appointment. So like Jane goes to a hotel, and it's interesting, right? So like you see her leave,
Hmm.
and then what's his name? John like calls a cab shortly after, and I was like, is he following her? Like, does he suspect it?
Yeah.
But no, like he also, has errands to run that night. So he goes to a bar, she goes to a hotel.
And I think it's kind of like, if you don't know, because I mean, in 2005, I don't really remember, but if you've never seen this movie before, I think they're trying to make it look like he's having an affair on her and she knows about it. That's why she's being like super, like, because she is the colder one of the two, but I think it's kind of set up to make it look like he's having an affair and she knows about it. And that's why. But there's sneaky, there's stuff going on in the background as well. So it's kind of like, what is going on with Mr. and Mrs. Smith? I don't know. And yeah.
And so she arrives at a hotel. She goes up to the top floor, and she goes goes into this room, and she's escorted into this room by like some security guard, and like so she has like on a trench coat and a bag or whatever, and clearly she's there to work.
Yeah.
And so when she goes into the room to like where the client is, like she takes off her trench coat and she just had on this leather outfit, and then like she lets down her hair, and then like you said, it was like I never noticed like her hair was always up until she finally let it down.
Yeah,
like it was a very different character from there. And then at the same so you see that she's working with some client like as some type of like dominatrix or something like that. And then at the same time we see John at a bar, and he kind of like has a few drinks, and then like gets up to go to the bathroom, and he misses the bathroom, and he opens the door to like this back room where these three guys are playing poker, and like he's like drunk, and he's just like first he was looking for the bathroom, he sees they're playing poker, he was like, can I play or whatever, and they're like, no, get the fuck out of here. And then like he takes out some money, he fumbles with it, and they realize, oh, he's drunk, so it's an easy target, we can get some money out of this guy. So he sits down and starts playing poker with them. And then we jump back, and Jane's client is, he's stripped down. He's just in his underwear. She's tied him up. He has like a blindfold on him, and like he's in a position, and she's just like about to flog him or whatever. And then she says, "Have you been a bad boy?" And he goes, "Yeah, I have." And he was like, "You've been selling guns to people, huh?" And he goes, "Huh?" Yeah. And then before he can even respond, she just breaks his neck.
Yeah. Just like, so you're like, oh, fuck. Okay, the other shoe has dropped. Got it. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
And so she breaks his neck. There's a bit of a thud, and then like she prepares to leave. So she puts her coat on, and she kind of jumps out of the window, and using like some spy gadget where like she hooks it on something, and she just jumps out of the window and like does like she was in the penthouse, I assume. So I don't know how high it was up.
Well, it was the perfect length to just go down like however far the building was.
All I know is, as somebody who's afraid of heights, I'd have been like, I'm going to shoot my way out of here.
No, absolutely not. You're like, okay, no, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm good.
No, my fear of heights, and I have a secondary fear of heights for you. Exactly. You may not care about your life. That is too damn high. Yeah. But yeah, so she kills this guy and escapes out of the window, just like literally just hops into a cab and leaves. And then at the same time, we see John at the poker game. He's a little bit drunk. He's a little even drunker now, and he's like winning and then losing some. And then like a guy comes in because they mentioned that there was a seat empty, and that's why he took the seat.
Yeah,
he was like, when the guy comes out, I'll get out of here. So the fourth comes in, and he was like, "Is your name's like who are you?" And he was just like, "Who are you? Like, what are you doing here?" And he was like, "Waiting for you," basically. Yeah. So he shoots the guy that comes in, and then he shoots the other three, and then he gets up, cleans it up a little bit, and then he looks at the cards and goes, "God damn it, pair of threes.
What the hell?" And he makes sure to take his flask back, but he also leaves all the money, and that's something I was like, "Why would you leave all that money? Like, take the money with you." That's my thought. I'm like, "Damn," but
yeah. So you see, once again, both of them. There's more than me. And like I said, there was a hint of it in Colombia when they met, but it just wasn't addressed, at least from the film's perspective. So now we do see that they are some type of either secret agents or assassins or something. Yeah. Like you said, it's not just random kills because, like you said, he just left the money. So it wasn't about that. He was, he bet, and he also mentioned that, like, that guy that walked in, that last guy, was the target. Yeah. Yep. And so he leaves. They kind of, not race home, but they both get, Jane gets home before him. And she's, about to change. She still has her on her dominatrix outfit. And so she kind of hides in their closet. and they're both getting ready for this party to go across the street to the neighbors, and so they go to the neighbors or whatever, and kind of separate at the party. Jane is hanging with the women, John hanging with the guys, and they're just talking about the guys are talking about the market and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Jane is what does she do? Oh, she's sitting with the women, and I guess a baby throws up on the mother.
Yeah.
So they hand the baby to Jane, and she's like, I don't know what to do with this. Like what the
Yeah.
So like you said, she's always been, from what we've seen, very much more like distant is not the damn word. I don't want to keep using it.
Yeah.
But she's the colder one, I guess.
Yeah. And there's two things with this scene too when she's doing that. One is she's still wearing the fishnets from the assassination.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. Because she wasn't able to change in time.
Yeah. But a woman gives her the side eye at the party when she's like, whoa, those are some sexy.
Well, they are in the suburbs, so we keep that shit under wraps.
Yeah. Well, because she's wearing a more conservative. It's a nice pink dress, but a more conservative pink dress with a pink little camisole on top or whatever, or cardigan.
Cardigan,
yeah. But then also when she's holding the baby, John Doe Smith sees this and is like, huh. Because he compliments her later, when they get back home from the party, he's like, "Oh, hey, you looked really nice in that dress." So it was something. He's he tries a few times to kind of bridge this gap in one way, but I think it's because there's a secret that neither of them are telling the other, so neither of them can fully trust one another, and that's why I think you look at Jane still, even though he's trying to bridge the gap, is I don't know about this guy because there's something up with him. Yeah.
You know what I also think it is? It was just I don't know if it's a critique on marriage, but it was just since it was such a whirlwind, right? It was that I guess storybook romance. It was just we just saw one another and we knew.
Yeah.
And I think 5 or 6 years later, that that has kind of worn off. You can't it's Keanu said it in Speed. He was relationships started by tragedy or these drastic moments don't last or whatever. It was just because of the fact that this adventurousness or how we met is cool, but relationships aren't constant exciting moments. There are lulls. There was where you you said you need to get to know that person, and if you're holding something in or refusing to tell them even a part of yourself, then it is you're kind of dating a blank person or whatever.
Yeah. You need communication. You need a ton of communication to make a marriage and a relationship work. And so if you are holding things back, keeping secrets, there's no communication. And then therefore, good luck. Wish you the best.
It's you can't constantly just jump out of planes. And
yeah, exactly.
Things like that. There are going to be lows where you need to talk to this person. What are your dreams because I'm curious if they ever talked about kids, whatever, because I think that's what I read. I remember him commenting on it later on when they got home, but what I read, it was just this is something we never considered.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's is that something I'm interested in, or is she gonna want to talk about that, or is it something they never talked about at all?
Because it struck me as he saw her with a baby and he was like, oh, you know what? I think it'd be kind of cool to be a dad. You know what I mean? It's kind of that thought was kind of what I read that scene as when he saw him. But yeah.
But so then we get kind of we see a glimpse of their morning routines as they're getting ready for work, and John goes into his shed. And we see he has that's where his armory is. It's hidden for the most part. There's a kind of a bunker in his shed, and it was you see his all the weapons and stuff like that. And so he grabs a few, and then he starts to head for work. She's in the kitchen, and she hits a certain button in the oven, and the same thing happens. You see her little armory in the kitchen, and then the funniest shit was they were both in their cars leaving, trying to go down the driveway, and it's a narrow driveway, so only one of them can go. And they're kind of just trying to beat one another. It's relax.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you hurt your car. I'm just we don't need scratches on the car. All right. Yeah.
And so then John goes to this construction, his construction office. And he gets an assignment from the secretary or whatever.
Yeah.
He has a brief conversation with Eddie.
Vince Vaughn.
I guess there's not handle. Like usually in the FBI, like when it comes to like the government like secret agent thing, there's like a handler or something like that, or like kind of. So I assume that's what Eddie is
I
to
think he's just
John.
another assassin. Like, they work for like the same organization, and they're like
Mhm.
two. I think they strike me as two of the top assassins because later on he gets a hit mark too. Remember, like Eddie, like later in the movie.
Okay, true. You're right.
Yeah,
I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's Vince
yeah.
Vaughn.
It's
I
because
don't
it's the
see
Vince
him
Vaughn.
as,
Yeah,
but I also I feel like Dan Aykroyd played an assassin in the movie or something like that. So it's
yeah.
just like, and even mentioned in Argyle, right? Like,
Mhm.
not all assassins, not all secret agents are going to look like fucking Henry Cavill. That stands out.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
maybe that's what it is. My default assassin is fucking obviously Angelina Jolie because
Yeah.
she's just going to stand out,
Yeah.
and fucking James Bond.
And you're gonna miss the Danny DeVito like guy coming up behind you with a gun. All right.
Or the odd job, fucking stabbing at your knees. But yeah, so yeah, so he goes to his office and like she goes to hers, and it's like this high rise.
Mhm.
And they both get an assignment to basically take out this I guess hacker or something like that called the Tank.
Mhm.
And so like he's been captured by some agency and he's being transported somewhere else. So like the mission is to intercept the handoff
Mhm.
so that he doesn't make it to his proper destination.
Yeah, which this is something where, like, because when the Tank guy got his mission, you saw Keith David's character. Like, you just see his face.
Did you?
Yeah, you saw it for a split second. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay. I just remember him because it's like he goes into the office with the secretary. There's a door,
Mhm.
and he's like, assumes he's gonna go in. He just gets an envelope from her, and then he looks up at the camera.
Yes, he looks up so the Tank doesn't see Keith David's face, but like we, the audience, see Keith David's face.
Oh, okay. Because I don't remember seeing Keith David until later.
Yeah, so it like flashed to him as a second, as like we like just saw it, and then when Father is talking to Angelina Jolie later to like give her the mission that we're talking about right now, and he's like, it's Keith David's voice. So don't get me wrong, if you don't know Keith David's voice, then you won't be able to put that together and make that connection. But like I know Keith David's voice, so I was like, wait a second. Why is that guy Tank the one? Why did Keith David give Tank a job, and why is he now telling Angelina Jolie to kill him? That was like a big just a plot hole of the movie, and it kind of relies on you knowing what his voice sounds like because you don't hear his voice in the movie. You don't hear his voice in the movie before this moment, and when you hear his voice for the first time, you don't see his face. But it's Keith freaking David. I mean, he's like his voice is iconic, right?
Okay.
But yeah,
because it was like I said, I don't remember seeing or hearing him until the botch.
Mhm.
So just like I assume he was working with her.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're both assigned to kill this Tank guy before the handoff.
Mhm.
And so Jane goes out and she sets up, like she's they obviously even have different styles as well, you see it, right? You see it from the small office that John and Eddie work out of,
Yeah.
and then this fucking high rise in the city that Jane is working out. So it's like they just have very different styles when it comes to espionage and how they do their thing. And so she's basically, it's in the middle of the desert somewhere. She has like this outhouse that she's working out of, and she just set up explosives through a certain radius. And as soon as the tank, the car he's in crosses into the perimeter, it'll just explode, and she'll just get out of there. Like it's very clean. And then so she's just waiting for the caravan to come through. And then here comes fucking John in this like dune buggy, just driving through the desert.
Yeah, he's blasting rock music. Yeah.
So he gets to his point, and so Jane notices him because like he comes into the perimeter and he knocks over one of the radars or whatever it is, and like so she's aware that he's there, and then like so she just assumes he's some idiot because he has on goggles and like a hat, because it's the middle of the desert, so she can't see exactly who it is, but she notices that he's fucked up her little perimeter.
Yeah,
and she's just gonna wave him off, assume he's gonna keep going, and then John, because the way he was gonna take out the tank was with a fucking rocket launcher,
bazooka, and I was like, hell yeah.
And I was like, I mean, all right, that is one way to assassinate someone.
I mean,
Fair
it
enough.
makes sense. Yeah.
And so because of that, she was like, oh shit, I need to take this guy out.
Yeah.
And so like she has like a sniper rifle. She shoots him in the chest because the tank's caravan is coming through.
Mm-hmm.
And so like she shoots John in the chest. He falls to the ground, but he's wearing a flak jacket, I guess, or a bulletproof vest.
Yeah.
And so like he gets up and he fires his his rocket at her little outhouse. And like so she's able to escape before it explodes,
Mm-hmm.
but the device she was using to trigger the tripwire or whatever is destroyed, and it like the bombs go off before the tank can get into the actual like the target spot. And so the agents that he's with, you know, do take evasive maneuvers to get him out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Jane escapes on a fucking motorcycle because she's been made. And John, I think he takes a bit of her. He takes like one of the tablets that she was working with, and then he gets out of there too because he missed the chance to get Tank.
Yeah.
So I think they both get back to their respective agencies or whatever, and they just failed the mission because they interfered with one another.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was I remember seeing like they're kind of patching her up because like obviously she barely escaped the explosion from the rocket or whatever. But this is where Keith David's character, the father, goes, you have 48 hours to find the person who interfered with your mission, or else kind of thing. And I think John gets the same thing, and so he takes her, like the tablet that he found from that Jane left behind, to a tech person who was played by Michelle Monaghan, Gwen or whatever. And like the tech is pretty fried, but she's able to find an address. So he goes to that address, and it's like it's like a high rise with the suite number, I think, for some reason. Yeah. And so he goes to the address, and he was like, wait a minute, this place looks familiar. Mm-hmm. And then he looks at the little directory inside and sees that the suite is connected to the tech company or consulting firm or whatever that Jane works for. Mm-hmm. And then I think at the same time, Jane is reviewing the footage from out in the desert. Mm-hmm. And I think she starts to like, because it was only a brief moment that John was in the desert before they fired on one another. Yeah. Like even she starts suspecting like that he looks familiar. Yeah. Right.
With his man while he's peeing and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Like, there's something about how he pees. I've seen a guy pee like that before.
There's the attention to detail for secret agents that I can respect. But yeah, so they both get like, so she gets home first. She makes dinner. John gets home because he says that he his trip was cut short. Mm-hmm. Or whatever. Yeah. And so they're sitting there, but they're very wary of one another. Mm-hmm. So like he's like hiding his knife or whatever, or something like that. Like she made like his favorite meal. Mm-hmm. And like she pours him wine, but he's like he opens the door, and it's very much like I Dream of Jeannie or something like that, where like she has a drink prepared for him already, mm-hmm. like his favorite drink, and like he's suspicious of her, so he just tosses it out as he's walking into the dining room.
She also left like Drano and rat poison out in various locations around the house. She's fucking with him 100%. Yeah. Like, she's totally doing it to fuck with him this whole time. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so like it's once again, I think these scenes like there's tension there, right? Obviously, right? Yeah. Because they're both agents, mm-hmm. but there's also comedy there, and I think that's what was right. It was like obviously this is a serious moment in this film, mm-hmm. but it was like they were also able to play up on the comedy of it. Yeah, because it was like because I think Brad Pitt did another movie like this, where like his wife was like but this was like during like I want to say the Holocaust or something like that, where he was like a secret agent and he was a soldier or something like that, and he was suspected his wife of being a double agent or whatever, like working. Yeah, and so but that was more of a drama. Mm-hmm. But like I said, it was just like this moment is very tense, right? It would be in any film, but it was like I love how they played it up. It was like there was a tenseness to it, but also there was satire in there. Yeah. So it's like
Yeah, I was just saying, like, that goes, like, when we talked about, like, these scenes are great. Every scene with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie together, I think, is really good. But honestly, I kind of realized it with us, like, rehashing parts of the movie. I was like, oh, yeah, the parts without them in it, I don't care about these parts. They're not in this. I'm like,
luckily, there were very few and far between.
Yeah.
There's very few scenes where they're not in it.
Well,
right.
Well, I don't know, man. There's been like an hour of this movie so far.
But it was what I'm saying. It was just like, oh, you're talking about them both being in
Yeah, both when they're interacting with each other.
Okay, that's when fair enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, this dinner keeps going. They're very suspicious of one another. Like, he eats her food, but is wary of it. Like, even I think he tries to, like, he pours them both. They each pour a glass of wine, and like he takes hers because he's like, you're not gonna get me. I'm not dumb.
Yeah.
And then he walks over to her to pour her another glass of wine, and he drops it.
Yeah.
And because she's a secret agent and very quick reflexes, she catches it before it hits the ground.
And he's like,
Yeah. Exactly. You did.
Gotcha.
And like she realizes what she did, and she drops it, and then like they kind of just run.
Yeah.
Or they run out of the house. Like, so she actually she runs out of the house.
Yeah.
Gets in her car and drives away, and like he takes his gun and starts chasing her.
Yeah.
And like, so he's chasing her through the neighborhood, and she's saying like, "No, it can't be. Like, what type of idiot am I, right, to not see it?" Which fair the fuck enough.
A little bit,
yeah. But yeah, so she's driving through the neighborhood. He's running through the neighborhood, chasing her, like cutting through backyards and stuff like that. And then like he's in somebody's yard. He goes to jump over their fence to get to the sidewalk, and like he trips, and he's holding his gun. The gun goes off. And the bullet just hits the windshield of her car. And it was like, it wasn't intentional. Even like John is like, oh shit, no,
I'm sorry. No. I didn't mean to do that.
But like he goes out to the middle of the street to like with his hands up, like, that's not what I meant. Yeah. But Jane is livid. She was like, this motherfucker tried to kill me.
Yeah.
So like she runs him over, like he's on top of the car, like flailing about. And then like she kind of crashes it. And like he falls down like some type of cliff or like or some shit. Excuse me. And so like they go, basically she goes to her office to hide. He goes to Eddie's house to hide out. And then at this both times, like, so I think this is Jasmine, played by Kerry Washington, sees her, it's like Jane in the office, and like she's drinking and like just in disbelief because like she's questioning. It was like, am I being played? It was like, was it all fake or whatever and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Which is interesting because of the fact that it does seem like I said, I think initially they were, very much in love. I assume it lasted maybe a year, but like I said, it's 5 years now. So like going off of the high of their meet cute, it must have fizzled out a long ago, right? Or so now they're just in the motions of it.
Yeah.
So for her to even quit, because it seemed like she wanted to be out of it when we meet them, right in the beginning of the film.
Yeah.
So to see her go through this run of emotions was like, was any of it real or anything like that? I don't know. I would have seemed like she's been disillusioned. So like,
I mean, I think like you get, well, yeah, we don't know when they started feeling this way, but they still had like the beginning passion that they had then, and then there's still definitely feelings that they have for one another. Because even if there is, you look at it like, and granted, this isn't all relationships, but like you look at that, I'm assuming with them, they are sticking it out because there is still some kind of feelings, even though they're doing this. And that's why they went to couples therapy in the first place. Is like, you don't go to couples therapy unless you kind of want to try and make this work.
Yeah. But it was, I think, maybe because she was so cold, it was interesting seeing her break down emotionally.
Yeah.
Like it was kind of like a bit jarring.
Yeah.
Because this person that we've seen, like the one that has had emotion or some type of personality has been John.
Yeah.
Right. So I think this just seemed way out of character for her.
Okay.
Because it reminded me of The Killer, right? And even though it was a comedy of errors and things were constantly going wrong, he never broke down emotionally.
True.
Yeah. It was always like him just constantly adjusting and adapting to situations. So in my mind, that's how, like, so John's emotional response to it made sense because he had been showing emotion throughout the film. But like Jane's, like she seemed very calculated and stuff like that. So it was just like, I would assume her reaction would have been like, okay, this is what it is, accepting it and adapting.
Yeah.
Right. But it was like, so seeing her emotional like kind of threw me off, but it's still fine. I mean, you do feel like you've been lied to and like you've been tricked and like you see in this moment, she was just like, was he just playing me to get more information or some shit like that?
Yeah.
Does he know like? So it was just I can see it, but it was like I would assume based on her character in this film that she would have been more. She would have continued to be just as calculating as she was in the beginning.
My biggest thing, like slight rebuttal with that, is just I think she has that distance of coldness to her in the beginning, but that's like a self-defense mechanism, so she doesn't.
Yeah,
I think from so she doesn't get hurt or like I think and can't say this for everybody, but there are certain people who like that's their self-defense mechanism. Is they're going to be cold and distant and aloof because they care and they don't want to get hurt more. So it's like that's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to be the one to push someone else away first because I don't want to risk getting hurt. And I think that's kind of her to a T. Is like, but her even doing that or her even being in the place where she could be hurt by this person shows that she cares. But that's why she's just being like, I don't want to let myself be hurt. I'm pushing people away, but it doesn't mask the fact that underneath she still has all these like feelings and stuff going for it too.
Got you.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I said, it makes sense, but I think it was just like for me, I was just like, nah, I'm keeping it. I'm building up those walls further now. Fuck that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, fair.
Yeah. But yeah, so they both, he goes to, like I said, John goes to Eddie's house to kind of hide. And then Jane goes to the office. They fall asleep and then wake bright and early the next morning. This is what I was expecting for her, the calculated moves.
Yeah.
Right. So like she gets to the house and with her team, like the whole team, and they just sweep the entire house to try to get intel on John.
Yeah.
And so it was funny. Some of the women are watching. You do notice that like her entire agency is all women. They're like, I guess Charlie's Angels because there's like father.
Yeah.
And then all the women, so it's like Charlie's Angels or some shit like that. But so they're sweeping the house. There's a few women watching their wedding video, and she's like, "Why are you watching this?" She was like, "Information, man." Like, all right,
okay, man.
And then like we see that some woman is like they're like literally ripping through everything. So like she still has the teddy bear that she won early in their relationship with her, and this woman is just gutting this thing. And like Jane is, I think, like you said, it was like there's, even though she feels betrayed and stuff like that, watching the wedding video, seeing her tear up this teddy bear, that it does have some sentimental value to her.
For sure,
she feels some type of way, but like she just immediately gets over it, takes it, and throws it in the trash. As she's throwing out the trash or whatever, a little girl comes up and she says, "What's going on, Mrs. Smith?" And she says, "Yard sale girls." Or, no, she said garden party girls.
Oh, yeah.
And so after this, we see John. He arrives at one of the neighbors' houses, and he was just like, "You said you wanted to see my house, right?" Because this is another thing too.
Yeah.
Where like when they were at the party earlier, people know them in the neighborhood, but they don't really know them. Like he was saying, like none of them have been to their house or whatever like that. Like they do interact within the neighborhood, but it's very much like keeping. There's a certain boundary that the neighbors know not to kind of cross.
Yeah.
And so like the guy's like, "Yeah, you never seen my house. You want to see it?" So, so like he takes the guy to his house or whatever, and he has the guy stand in front of him as he opens the door, and then like is walking him through the house with his hand on his shoulder.
Yeah, using him as a human shield the whole time. That's hysterical. Yeah.
And then when he notices that like the coast is clear, he goes into his shed to go into the bunker to like get weapons and stuff like that. And this is where you see like Jane's team has cleaned him out.
Yeah.
And they're like, this is where the subtle comedy come from, where like he comes out of the shed and he's just like he starts swinging at the air like
yeah. He had a crap ton of money down there too, and all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
And so this is where we go, like they're in the office or whatever, like I guess planning next moves, and they get an alert that there's been a security breach in the building.
Yeah.
And so like they have this program like sweeping the each floor of the building, and when they find out like where it is, John calls Jane, and he's like basically making threats. He was like, "You got to leave," because once again they're still on the clock to kill one another, like to find the person that botched the hit of the tank, and they have like 48 hours or so to kill them. And so he's like, you gotta get you gotta get out of here, Jane, or else, like, kind of making a threat.
Yeah.
And so, like, her and her whole organization kind of like leave their offices. Like, it's a cool scene where, like, they like latch up these like zip lines or whatever to the next building.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, as they all leave, and Jane's the last one to leave, and John comes out of the ceiling and a gun aimed at her, but he doesn't fire.
Yeah.
And so, like, she zips across to the the next building or whatever, and he calls her what, coward or something like that.
I don't remember, but yeah, but he had. Oh, I think she calls him a pussy. I think.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He calls her a coward, and she yells back, "Pussy!"
Yeah, he calls her coward, yeah, pussy, and flicks him off. But there's just like this fun part is like they're having fun doing this. Like, they have like little cheeky smiles at one another and doing this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, even though this is very serious and they are threatening one another, it kind of is like they're almost playing a game a little bit with each other.
Well, I think it goes back to their meeting, right? Yeah. Where it was just, once again, it was a whirlwind. It was excitement, and it was all this. It was like, finally, after 5 or 6 years of being married,
exactly.
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
This person is now exciting, right? Like you said, it was just like we went from being bland, this suburban, couple, to, oh, now we got to kill one another.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, let's make this. She was like, not only have I not known you, but it was like, you work in my field, and I've been assigned to kill you. Like, oh, this is very much a cat and mouse game that we could play.
There's no way to find this data, or is there? Mm-hmm. But when this movie came out, how many suburban couples do you think role played Mr. and Mrs. Smith to spice up their bedroom? I'm just saying. There's like, oh, we got to kill each other. Oh, and they just, did that. I bet there was a lot.
I mean, it almost made $500 million.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
But yeah, so there's another attempt where it's just like John is on one of his work sites, and he's in an elevator, and we see that Jane has sabotaged the elevator, trapped him in there, and she was basically like asking him to just leave. Yeah. Right. And he refuses. So like she rigs the elevator to like drop, and so he dies or whatever. And like, so there's a bit of hesitation from Jane. And even John is kind of giving her like a chance to like not do it or whatever. Yeah. And like ultimately she does, make the call to assassinate John.
Well, she doesn't really make the call. She says goodbye, John, but then still like goodbye, but doesn't do it. And then the other woman that's like 4 desks down presses the button. And then Jane is like, what the hell? Why did you do that? And the woman's like, I mean, you said goodbye. What do you want from me? Goodbye. What?
Man, I'm just the button pusher. Okay, I don't make the big decisions up at the top. Yeah. But yeah, so we do see that John, I guess, had foreseen this, and so he had really. It was like he was already on the ground or whatever.
He was on the next elevator.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. He was kind of giving her that chance.
Yeah.
And then so Jane goes out to dinner that night, and you see like she's very somber. She's very sad that, even though she was assigned to kill John, I don't think she wanted to, or there was that hesitation. So she's at dinner kind of, I don't know, celebrating or just like,
Well, but she's not celebrating. She's like, because that was like where they first went for something. That was like, it has some kind of memory. So she's like tearful, like she's crying, and she's to you, John, like, it sucks, but is what it is. But yeah.
And so then we see John come up behind her. And you see, she's a little bit relieved, and it's like this. So they have another exchange.
Yeah.
Where like, basically they're asking one another, was it all a lie? What was it? Did you ever mean? What did I mean to you, or something like that? And then like, so they dance for a bit, and it was like this way you get like them disarming one another. Slowly but surely, like, and then like, Jane had so many knives on her. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then like, at one point, like she kind of, because I think he asked her, was like, "Did you ever really love me?" or something like that.
Yeah.
And like, kind of, she doesn't answer, and she walks away. She goes up a flight of stairs to the bathroom, and then like shortly after, some woman runs out, and there's an explosion.
Yeah.
And then like, so everybody exits the restaurant or whatever, and he's kind of looking for her, and because he missed her, he like kind of missed her once she got outside. And then like some guy says, your jacket is ticking, or like you're getting a call or some shit like that. And like, so he sees that there's a bomb in his jacket, so he just throws it in the mailbox,
Yeah.
and it explodes. And then we just get them both like racing to the house
Mhm.
or whatever. And Jane gets there first.
Well, while they're going to the house too, there's like another call, which is just like, them calling, and like Brad Pitt's still kind of even trying to extend the olive branch of sort, and he's just like, "Am I just a mark for you?" And obviously he can't see this, but then Jane is just like crying a little bit, but she's like, "Yes, you were just a mark," and then Brad Pitt's character John is just like, "Thanks, I needed to hear that," because like he doesn't really want to do this, but he's like, but him hearing this lets him be like, all right, fine, I can do it. So then he hangs up, and then you just see Jane just like crying and like hitting her head on the back of the headrest because she didn't want to say that. She doesn't really think he was just a mark, but she's trying to convince herself of that too, so that way they can actually have this death fight or death battle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they both get to the house. Jane gets there first. All the lights are out.
Mm-hmm.
Like John secretly makes it into like some window or some shit like that. And so like I think they both find there's still weapons in the house, like they were able to find. But yeah, so they're both in separate parts of the house, talking shit to one another, and just firing different guns that they find in like potted plants and like random shit,
little toys and stuff in boxes.
Yeah. And this is where it's fun because you can still get to see, like we said, they have, even when they went to kill the tank, they had different approaches.
Yeah.
You saw their different styles of being like assassins. And even here with the this fight that they're having, they have different approaches. But you can definitely see that they're both matched as well, like skill wise.
Yeah,
which was cool to see. And so like they're going through the house, shooting at one another, avoiding getting shot. When they run out of guns, then they get into the the hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah,
and I think a little bit of John's cockiness is the fact that it was like, I'm probably the better fighter when it comes hand to hand. But it was like you do see that even though Jane can't match his size, she knows how to to use what she has to both outsmart him and overpower him.
Well, she has the secret technique that's been passed down for generations. It's called kick him in the nuts. All right, you kick him in the nuts, and all of a sudden it gets a lot more equal.
Not too many people know the technique.
Exactly. So I might actually be killed for revealing this technique to you people, but it's kick him in the nuts.
But yeah, but it was like even the hand-to-hand combat was like really intense and stuff like that. And then you can see at the end of their hand-to-hand combat, they race for weapons. And so they have guns trained on one another. And you see Jane hesitate. And it was like, you see this crack in this armor that she has, where just like I said, she was like so cold and calculating and very reserved the whole time as an agent. But in this moment when she does have the chance to kill him, obviously he's also, aiming a gun at her. Yeah. There's like tears coming where it's just like she does feel for this person. Right. She's not, she's not as cold as you would think. And instead of killing one another, it just leads to a very intimate, passionate, aggressive moment in the kitchen and all throughout the house. Where they're just like slamming each other into like tables and walls and shit like that.
Breaking even more shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
The biggest thing, like, there's broken glass everywhere. Broken glass everywhere in this scene. I'm like, all right, guys, come on. Like, you can't step on broken glass like that and not get fucked up. Come on. Yeah.
And so, like, after they have sex or whatever, they're laying on the floor. And, like, this is where it's more of them now, like, truly getting to know one another, right? The veil is, like, gone. Yeah. So, like, they mentioned the fact that, like the different broken bones or, like, wounds and scars that they have from their years of being agents or whatever. He mentions it was like, you didn't hear me get dropped off by a helicopter that one night, and she was like, oh no, I had like a stun grenade or something went off, so it was like I was deaf the whole night or something like that. And it was like you see them once again connecting, but like truly now there's nothing holding them back from letting this person know who they are. Yeah. And even at one point, like the neighbors come over because they're like, "What the fuck is going on? Y'all okay?" It's like, yeah, good, just redecorating, if you will. And so the next morning, this is like you were saying. There's I think because of the fact that they didn't kill one another in the time that they were allotted, like a wire goes out to all agents. Basically, there's a $400,000 bounty on both of their heads.
Mm-hmm.
And so we see this van pull up outside their house. And the guy, he looks like, a delivery driver or something like that, but he has like a fucking AK-47.
Yeah.
And so like they hear somebody approach, because I think, are they having breakfast or something like that?
Yeah, they're just having breakfast and like hanging
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
And then they notice, I think the guy throws in like a tear grenade or something like that.
Like smoke grenades go in the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like they retreat to the basement or whatever. And then like fucking they're in the basement trying to hide and stuff like that. And then they send in like a fucking bomb robot to the basement. It just drops a bomb. So like I think, what's her name? Jane kicks it underneath this like gas tank that just explodes, and then like the whole house fucking collapses.
Yeah.
And so they break into the guy next door's house and steal his car. And it was like there's a bit of a car chase, and this is very intense because it was like they're running away in a minivan.
Yeah.
All these agents chasing them. And it was like, so they spent the night before fighting one another, but now they have to work together. And you can see the clash in their styles, right?
Yeah.
Where like, once again, John is very very brash. He's the bronze or whatever. And like Jane's the brains, very calculating.
Yeah. And she has much more precision. She has better aim. You know what I mean? They're both great shots, but she has slightly better aim, etc. Yeah.
And so, like, you do see that where, like, he starts driving and she was just like, let me drive. I got this. Like, she's an amazing driver. And then, like, he can't get a shot off. And, like, she, while driving, like, whips the car around, fires at the gas tank. Like, no, fires just at the front wheel or something like that. And it comes off and the car flips.
Yeah.
And so they're able to escape. I think they escape to, like, a hotel or something. No. Do they go to Eddie's?
They don't go to Eddie's. They meet Eddie at the restaurant at one point in time, and then talk with him there. Yeah,
yeah. And so, like, basically, they're like, the only way for them to survive is to give the agency what they want, which was a tank.
Yeah. So
using their, whatever intel they have, they find out where he is, and then they go into like, because he's like at some safe house or some shit like that. So they go in. Jane is doing surveillance, and like John is the one like sneaking through to find him. Yeah. And it was like, once again, you see the duality of their different styles, where like Jane is very like, just give me a minute, let me figure this out. And like John just kind of goes in, and then like is able to get the tank out or whatever. But she's like, yeah, but all these people died. He was like, I mean, I got him, didn't I? Yeah. So, and once again, I think through both of these scenes with them like having to work together, but still their styles clashing, it was very much as like, what if you had to work with your wife, or like your partner, and it was just like, can you please stop yelling at me? There's other ways. Like, it's like seeing spouses play like during game night or something like that, but like in a more intense situation. So it goes from like Monopoly to being chased down by assassins, but the same tension, And so once they get to like some hotel room to interrogate the tank or whatever, to figure out like kind of what he knows, why they want him, like why these agencies want him dead. Yeah. And so he's been talking shit the whole time, and it was like, he's like, just look in my pocket. And when they look in his pocket, we see the picture that he found in the envelope when he first got the assignment. And it's a picture of the two of them. Yeah. And he was basically saying like, he was never the target. They were. Their agencies found out that they were married. Yeah. And so assuming that they, were crossing their agencies, they've been assigned to kill one another. So like the point of them being in the desert was hoping that they would either kill both, they would both die, or one of them would die. Yeah. But that didn't happen. So now they have to figure out, like, there's literally no way for them to, these agencies want them dead. Like, what do they do now? And so like I think they're trying to go out in a blaze of glory. So like they escape the hotel room or whatever before they cause both agencies were tracking the tank. Yeah. And so they escape the hotel room and then like go to like some hardware store or something like that. And we get an interesting scene with them like working together.
Mhm.
Which, Jesus, reminds me of Argyle, but better.
Yeah, this was, I'd say, better than this scene was a little better than the Argyle one.
A lot less smoke,
but there wasn't as much color. All right, there could have been some more color. All right, which would have been nice. Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just like you get to see a little bit more of their skills. Like Jane is very good with a knife, and we see that. And I think ultimately, sorry, my light went out.
Sure.
Ultimately, they're able to, like, so I think they're about to go out in a blaze of glory or something like that.
Yeah.
And then like it just cuts to them back in fucking therapy.
Yeah, right.
Like,
and you're like, okay.
And that's what I was talking about, the abruptness of this ending, because it was like clearly they were like triumphant. Like we do see that in the last scene, like they're back to back shooting at the guys coming after them.
They're pew-pewing pretty hard. Yeah.
Yeah, it does seem like they've finished off the last guy, right? Yeah. That's what the assumption.
But
even with that, it was just like, okay, what happened next? Like, we've established that your agencies, you've been blackballed by both your agencies. So like, where do we go from here? What are we doing?
Exactly.
And then it just jumps to them in therapy saying like they're doing a lot better now. And then the last scene is just like John going, ask us how many times we've had sex. Because that was a question they couldn't answer in the opening of the film.
Yeah. Because they're like, they weren't really, But yeah, I mean, it's like, but as the end goes, I'm like, what happens with Father? What happens with the other agency? They can kill a lot of people, but like,
are they still on the run? Like, there's so many questions.
So like, and how long did they last before John Wick came and killed them both? That's really like, there's questions that I'm curious about. All right.
I think maybe the sequel was just like them on the run, having to deal with like the top, the top assassins from like another group, and they're like constantly on the run. Yeah, like, I don't know, but it was this ending was very abrupt.
Yeah, I'm going to say canon statement. Willem Dafoe from the first John Wick and John Wick, Keanu Reeves, they come and finish off Mr. and Mrs. Smith later on. I'm just gonna. There we go. Nice tied up with a little bow. And
I don't know. Let's get we need the counterpart. Let's get the bride from Kill Bill.
Yeah, for sure. No, absolutely. Yeah, she gets
throw her in there.
Yeah.
John Wick and the bride are assigned to kill them both. And then they clash, and but they fall in love.
Yep, for sure. That was John Wick's first love. Absolutely, yeah. Alternate universe. Yeah. But that is Mr. and Mrs. Smith, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. We are the Meddling Kids. What we always like to do is just review our original rankings. So, Mike, you gave this movie a 3.5 out of 5 when we first started talking about it. Does that stand? Are you changing it? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm giving it a 3.5. Like I can see the kind of the flaws in the film, even though it was fun.
Yeah.
There were definitely like I can see why because like I said before, I looked into it and did the homework. I didn't think that it was this low on Rotten Tomatoes for either the audience or the critics.
Yeah, I
can definitely see the criticisms being more accurate than just being kind of nitpicky. So
for sure,
I'm going to stick with a 3.5.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I remember this movie came out in 2005, which means I would have been like, what? I would have been like 7th, 8th grade. So I remember when this movie came out and like, it was a huge box office success. Tons of people watched it. So I remember when it came out, everyone was talking about it. Maybe that was 6th grade because it was 2005. Anyway, but still like, it was a pretty big movie. So to hear that you said that like, oh, the critics kind of, had very negative scores. But after watching it myself, yeah, I agree. I'm going to still stick with my 3 out of 5 because I think the scenes with Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt when they're together and they're like fighting and working together are really solid. But there is a lot of this movie that's kind of left to be desired, especially the ending and even kind of like some of that build-up stuff. But yeah, but either way, still pretty good. But again, we are the Meddling Kids, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can find us at 2meddlingkids on Twitter and Instagram, or you can email us at 2meddlingkids@gmail.com. Mike, how can they reach out to you?
At Days from Legendary on Instagram.
And if you'd like to reach out to me, I'm at EdHunt77 on Twitter and Instagram, and hunt.comics is my Instagram and TikTok handle. So I'd love to see you over there as well. But until next time, everybody, we'll be back next week with a brand new movie. See you soon.
Bye. Yeah.